It's 6 o'clock. I'll call the August 10th, 2021 meeting of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors to order. This evening we have Pastor Bill Showman from the Lead Mines Circuit of United Methodist Church to provide our invocation. If you would please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
Good evening. Everybody bow your head, please. Father God, you are wise and loving. Thank you on behalf of all these who have gathered here today, Lord. And thank you for so many blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health that we need to fulfill our callings, maybe government, maybe church, whatever the jobs are. Thank you for your freedom to embrace you and to serve in unity. Thank you for loving us in spite of ourselves. Lord, in Romans 13:1 it says that everyone must submit to the governing authorities, for all authority comes from God, and those in positions of authorities have been placed in there by God. Lord, you have established those very authorities to promote peace, order, and justice. Therefore, I pray for each member on this board. I am asking you would graciously grant them the wisdom to govern, even with conflicting interests and issues of our times. The ability to work together in harmony, even when it is honestly disagreement. Please give them the personal peace in their lives and enjoy in their tasks. I pray for the agenda that's set forth tonight. Please give us assurance that whatever would be taking place tonight, Lord, that you'll be benefited for those who live and work around the county. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item we have on the agenda this evening, we have a public hearing before we move into our normal meeting agenda. I'll read the public hearing notice for the fiscal year 2022 budget amendment. Notice is hereby given pursuant to section 15.2-2507 of the Code of Virginia and amendments thereto, that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors intends to consider an amendment to increase the fiscal year 22 budget in the amount of $5,571,531 in coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds through the American Rescue Plan Act. Eligible uses for these funds are public health COVID impacts, revenue loss, negative economic impacts, essential worker support, infrastructure, which includes water, wastewater, broadband, etc. A public hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, August the 10th, 2021 at 6:05 p.m. or as soon as practical thereafter in the boardroom of the County Administration Building, 340 South 6th Street, Wytheville, Virginia, to hear public comments on the proposed budget amendment. With that being said, Mr. Blair, do you want to give an overview or open it up to the...
Certainly will. As all localities in the United States, all localities were provided funding through the American Rescue Plan Act. Our information came in right as we were adopting our budget for this upcoming year. Code requires, in order to amend our budget, we must have a public hearing to do so. And that is the purpose of this public hearing tonight, is to hear comments from citizens about amending the budget and also potential uses for these funds.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. We have one person signed up, Mr. Andy Kegley. Mr. Kegley.
Good afternoon.
Good
How are you? Thank you for the opportunity. I do want to speak on behalf of that word infrastructure, and that's a big word that's getting a lot of attention today. You know, the Congress, or half the Congress, has passed the infrastructure bill. So I think at the end of the day, as the country climbs out of where we've been for the last 15, 16 months, opportunities like what Congress is doing today and like what you all have before you with this $5.5 million is an opportunity that doesn't happen very often. And the needs for, a good, wise investment are many. I want to suggest a couple things about infrastructure investment, and I want to suggest a couple things about, maybe more citizen input than just a public hearing with one person speaking. I note that a draft, I'm not sure whether the letter was in the agenda, talks about $3 million for the
Yes.
utility funds potentially. That's just a placeholder, and I.
Yes, sir.
So utilities is something that's kind of near and dear to our work at Hope. As you know, evictions have been put on hold. I think now they've been extended for another 60 days. It's been a roller coaster ride watching evictions and the moratorium. Utility disconnects have been governed by General Assembly Act, and when the governor lifted the emergency order on June 30th, that said after 60 days, utilities could start enacting terminations on utility accounts. The General Assembly yesterday put $120 million into a fund for utility relief. It's really unclear how much of that will be available for Appalachian Power customers. None of it's available for Dominion Power, which is the biggest utility in the state. And it's unclear when those funds will become available. If August 30th or 31st is when AEP can start doing disconnects, people could quite likely be having their power turned off very shortly while there are pots of money sitting out there potentially available. So I don't know what was quite envisioned with a part of the set aside for utilities, but I think working with DSS, Mountain Cap, or us at Hope, maybe a plan for some kind of emergency relief for some kind of targeted audience, senior citizens, those disabled. If you're living in rent based on income and you get a termination notice, you'll be evicted. So like if you're at North Winds, you get a termination notice, you can't pay the bill, you'll be evicted. So that's one consideration I want y'all to ask y'all to think about. I note too in the language from the federal memo that you all got that some of this can be used for equity-focused services, and that includes investment in housing. And as you know, I've talked with y'all many times over the years about the need for more affordable housing. There are a couple things that are kind of on the horizon, but anything that could go into fixing housing is going to fix a lot of other problems that you all have too about economic development and growth. I would ask, like I said a moment ago, that you all consider setting aside some of these funds and bring together a committee of potential stakeholders from the county, like I said, DSS, Mountain Cap, Hope, Public Housing Authority, some others to talk about, maybe a more specific use and how that might be plugged into a capital improvement plan with more input, more planning, and then a better product at the end of the day. So thank you for your time and good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. That's all we had signed up to speak on the public hearing for the budget amendment. Did anybody get confused and sign the wrong sign-up sheet?
I guess I did.
You want to speak about this?
No,
Okay.
I didn't know what I signed.
You're on the other sheet. I got you. Yes, sir. All right. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing for the ARPA fund budget amendment. And the next item on our agenda is our regular citizens' time. And the first person we have signed up is somebody we haven't seen in a while, Mr. Roy Cox.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Vaught, I've been waiting for this meeting for a long time. It has come. And I thank each and every one of you guys and girls up there for the help you did. Pope Road is now a better road, a good road, no dust, no mud, and I appreciate each and every one of you. You got the job done. And I want to say a special thanks to Andy Fowler and Pam Hether, I think that's her name. They took care of the pipes. They seen them problem, a lot of water coming on me, and my pipe wouldn't handle it. So they went and changed it, put a bigger pipe. That problem's took care of. So what else can I say, buddy? I am happy. Appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you very much.
We appreciate you for being
Thank
so
you.
patient.
COVID ruined the ribbon cutting out there, Mr. Cox. I said COVID ruined the ribbon cutting when they finished that thing. All right, next we have Mr. Tim Blair.
That's me. All right. I'm here to ask y'all for some help. I'm trying to get public water out of my land. And I'm having trouble getting it. I went to New River Trail about getting a permit to bore a hole underneath the trail. And he told me it's gonna cost me $1,000 to get a permit. And if I go that route, I want to put a meter on my side. But I would like to run it out the road out to where from Jimmy Alley out past my house. I will hook onto it, and my dog will hook onto it. And that's why I'm asking y'all to help me.
Mr. Blair, just get everybody on the same page. Where's your property at?
It's on River Bluff Drive. My property runs parallel with a New River Trail. I got two houses there. My son lives in one house. I'm giving my daughter my land on the end out there, which they both right of way to it. And I'm trying to get a right of way to it. Used to be out there, and the New River Trail says it ain't gonna happen. So I'm fighting that. But anyway, I'll come over here and ask y'all for some help. I like to run it out the road. I will hook onto it. My daughter will hook onto it.
Mr. Blair, can you get us some information on that?
Yeah, and a couple things on that. When you say you'd like to run it out the road, are you interested in running out the road at your expense? Or at the
No,
county spending
no.
it through there? Okay. What I would like, Water Committee, I think briefly looked at this at the last meeting. Our next meeting is next Tuesday at 9:30. And with the information that you've gotten back from the New River Trail about the mooring, if you could come to the Water Committee meeting next Tuesday morning at 9:30, we can look at it more in depth with the Water Committee, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Can you do that?
I'd be here, buddy.
Okay.
And that's all I got to say.
Yeah, come to the water committee meeting, let us talk to them about it, and that'll be your first step, maybe we can help you out.
Well, I can't buy the way her put a pipeline, you know. It's public utility. But anyway,
Yeah,
do what,
yeah.
do what I gotta do.
Yeah, come to the water committee meeting, when, did you say next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday at 9:30.
At 9:30.
Right here. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Blair.
Thank you.
Next person signed up is Miss Linda Meyer. Ms. Meyer?
Good evening, gentlemen. I just have a question which you probably won't answer, but I'll ask it anyway. I have reviewed our comprehensive plan, and I think it's pretty good, and I think our planning commission does a pretty good job of keeping it updated and so on. I personally don't think it's deficient or outdated. I was really curious, the cost of what with Connect is, the cost of that for those 4 or 5 people doing their seminars and their work, and is there a limit on that expenditure? And then another curiosity is the Virginia Department of Emergency Management that says this has to be done. Are they, again, is that a government overstepping, a government agency overstepping in Wythe County planning with possible mandates and edicts? That is a concern, and we hope that is addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Next person signed up is Miss Rebecca, is it Snavely?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rebecca Snavely. I live at 348 Carterville Heights in the Max Meadows area, Fort Chiswell District. Here's my problem, our whole neighborhood. But as I look around and see, my cohorts didn't back me up. So, okay, we have a problem with cattle getting out. And we have called, and this has been going on for months. And they, of course, they say they'll send somebody to check it out and all of that. But however, one of the persons that do own some of the cattle, they did come to my house today. And he waited for an hour and a half on the other person, which did not show. And I told him he wasn't going to show up before he come there. So what can I do, or what can y'all do to help me to have them? And I've already got the letter and everything, where it's up to the landowners to put up the fences. And I think that needs to be reevaluated. I don't think it needs to be up to the landowner. I think it needs to be up to the cattle owner. Because, if you got money to own cattle, you ought to have money to fix fence. Because we're just common people, and we don't have money to go out and build a 500-foot stretch of fence. And so what can we do about that? Because I'm getting too old to run them cows every day. They know who they are. And the police, everybody knows who they are. So what can be done about that, if anything? Or am I spitting in the wind?
Mr. Bear, you want to explain the fence in, fence out fiasco?
Now, I've read the rules, I got a copy of it, but I'm just saying, I don't think it's up to the, the landowner to do that. I think it should be up to the cattle owner. And should y'all not reevaluate that?
Ms. Slave, you've got a very good point. It's a very good question. It's been addressed by and reviewed by these boards over many years. And probably around 2008 or 2009, the fence ordinance that the county had that established all the boundaries of anyone's property, with or without a fence, has been a lawful fence, did have the restriction that basically the cattle will not run at large. When that was repealed, the state law is generally considered fence out, which is exactly what you said, that the landowners do have to do it. You are correct. The only way to change that would be somehow implementing some type of change in the fence law. I can certainly talk to our animal control officers. I'm sure the sheriff's probably familiar with the situation as well. And we can do all we can to try to encourage them to keep it in, but we are restricted by the state code.
I understand that. But I also understand too that when that law was put into effect, a lot of those board members were the cattle owners at the time. And that's why I'm saying I think it needs to be up to the cattle owner, not the, person that is just a landowner. We have a fence, but those bulls tear it down, And like I said, what can we do? It's like I told them week before last. I said, well, can I just drop one of them in my yard and take it to the market? And, well, their reply was, I like my steak medium rare. So, but no, if y'all could do something about that, I would appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody up in our area would. I have the list of the people who live in my area, and every one of them, they agree, that they would like something done about this. And if you would like a name of the persons and a phone number, I'd be glad to give it to you.
Did you leave your phone number on the list?
No.
Okay. If you'll give me your phone number before you leave,
I
I'll
will.
get in touch.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you, Ms.
Nagy.
Nagy.
Thank you.
And we share your frustration. We had the conversation about the same thing
About 2 months
a
ago.
month and a half,
Yeah,
2
month
months
and a half,
ago. So, and what you said about nobody showing up with you is exact the words that come out of my mouth. People will complain, but they won't come up here. But if we go to change it, the farmers will pack this room. So it's a tough spot, but we'll see what we can do. All right, next up is Shawna Shannon.
Sorry, I'm not Jess. I got rained on. And I was teaching karate, so a little sweaty, and I have to use some notes if you all don't mind. So, can you all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so my husband and I, we live in Blaine County, but I'm currently, I have been for the past 13 years, a teacher for Wythe County Public Schools. We just recently purchased a 9,000 square foot building on 2 acres for the children of Wythe County. For the past 13 years, our students, some of them are in here, former students, have attended our after-school program. We have opened our doors to Wythe County Public School students during the shutdown so parents wouldn't lose jobs. Kids were being held accountable for and doing their schoolwork, learning their values through the martial arts, etc. We are now being what we feel is discriminated against by Wythe County Public Schools due to my recent leave of absence. They are threatening to not transport to the Shanachai after-school program, stating that they may not have enough space. We have poured everything into this building, with our personal home being tied to it. If they don't transport to our after-school program, we will not be able to pay our bills. Kids will likely have nowhere to go. Parents will probably lose jobs, and we have many first responder students in our after-school program. My question is why are they just now sending us supposed contracts to sign, sending emails that they will not transport if the space is not available, and certainly will not run any additional buses in order to accommodate Shanachai students? I found this out from some of the concerned teachers of Wythe County today that received this email. We pay a lot of taxes to Wythe County, especially with the recent purchase of this building, as do the parents. And my understanding is that the school bus transport system is funded by the stakeholders' taxes and grants received by the state. Am I wrong in this? With this, I'm not for sure exactly. On my research, that's where I think bus transportation fundings come from. I'm not for sure. That's the research that I'm finding. How can they decide if students can or can't be transported? I do know that a gentleman reached out to me last year, a local pastor wanting to start an after-school program, and Wythe County Public Schools refused to transport to him. I just want to know, can any of you help me understand why all of a sudden, when I took a leave of absence, which they're not very happy about, this is now happening? And I need to back up and say we're also running a private pre-K. I just kind of felt the need that Wythe County, if the kids couldn't get into the pre-K programs with the school system, there's really not a lot of choices. So, and we're almost at max capacity with our new private pre-K. I do also want to add a note about the contracts that I spoke of, that we didn't receive any communication from the schools about the supposed contract and found out from a concerned parent. When my husband emailed Mr. Rick Skeens, he stated that he sent this supposed contract to our new address, which is not true because we've checked the mail each day, and there's no mail that ever runs out there because we're not a brand new business, but it's a brand new location for us from Main Street to where we're at now, which is out next to Ager Park. We're in the industrial park. I do know that there's a bus that runs out there, and I know from plenty of parents that live out there that bus is not at full capacity, that it has a lot of space. I just need space for about, I don't know, we go anywhere from 40 up to 55 kids. This has never, ever been an issue before. They've never questioned transportation. They've been happy to transport. They actually recommend them to our after-school program. So I'm not for sure why all of a sudden, just this year, when I decided to take a leave of absence to pursue this, my dream, that all of this has been going on all summer, by the way, too. There's been lots of things that's went back and forth that will eventually probably have to play out in the courts. But my question is the money, where does the money that they receive go to? Because it's certainly not us in helping the children of Wythe County and the children of Wythe County Public Schools. When I say I have first responders and stuff, I have a lot of people that rely on us for after-school program. So if they're not going to transport to us, I guess I'll just take my minivan and make about 30 trips. I don't know. That's why I'm coming to you guys, because I'm kind of at a loss. I don't know what to do. Can you all help? And I'll try not to cry on you. So,
Have you been to the school board yet?
I have not. This has just happened, but right now, I'm not for sure how I feel about going over there with how I've been treated and how my husband and I have been treated. And it's not everybody. It's the one that I mentioned over transportation. I have a lot of friends with Wythe County. I believe in Wythe County. I believe in Wythe County schools. I'm not here to bash them or anything. It's the transportation, that has us so upset. And we just received the contract, when we asked for them, they wrote a nice little note that this was our second copy. They finally mailed it to where we asked for it to be mailed to. We did not know that a contract was coming. They didn't communicate via email, phone call, which they've been communicating all summer. They could have let us know that it was coming. So when we received it, there's a lot of things in there that we would like a lawyer to look at before we sign, before we just sign away. And that gives us, we literally just received it in the mail this morning, so that gives us, or last night, I'm sorry, that gives us what, tomorrow, school starts Monday, and they need to be transported. And apparently, if we don't sign this contract, they're not going to transport to us. So I just kind of want to make this be known, and if somebody can help us, or you have suggestions, I'd appreciate it.
He has the boss,
I don't know who that is.
Dr. West Poole.
That's what I was thinking, but I wasn't for sure. I thought that had changed.
If it has, I don't know. That's still,
As far as I know. And I'll, preaching to the choir, I know, but Thursday?
Yep.
What's the day, Tuesday?
Thursday.
at
Yes,
six.
sir.
At 6 o'clock is the next school board meeting.
Yeah.
And it's,
Right.
and I hate to do that because I feel like I'm passing the buck, but,
Right.
you know, sometimes people come up, you know, Mr. Cox come up and complained about his road 25 years ago, and we finally got it fixed. You know, some things we can help out.
Right.
We're a funding body. They make all the rules and all that, and never the twain shall meet. I think
Right.
that's the way it goes. So
Well,
my suggestion would be see you there Thursday.
yeah.
So-
We have an emergency parent meeting tomorrow because we're going to rally them up to go.
How many kids do you, I mean, I know you don't know, but just average after school? Because, you know, one of the things that we hear a lot is child care after, you know,
After
especially
school,
during
yeah.
the pandemic.
We have, right, we were open, we never shut our doors except when we were forced to, when they came and served us the papers, and I didn't really want to end up on the news, so we did just that time, but we average anywhere, it just depends on the year. Right now, we're sitting at about 55, so anywhere from 55 up to 65, and we're in 9,000 square feet now, so we can house probably 100 or more after-school kids. So we are going to purchase our own vans, but we've poured our heart and soul and our home into the current building, so it's taken everything until we can get back up onto our feet. We rely on the school for transportation, so.
My suggestion would be buy one of their old buses because they're in really good shape. And I'm not saying that just.
If you don't
but
love it, wipe it
they,
out.
when they surplus them, they don't
Right.
get very much money for them, for what they cost.
That's what I've
new,
heard.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
As long as it doesn't have a 3 and a 4 on it, because I usually wear them out.
Yeah, okay. Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're going through this. I understand the aggravation, but like he said, our hands are, completely tied with it. There's nothing we can do about that.
Okay,
You really do need to make sure you go Thursday.
okay.
Yeah, because there might be
But
some
I
school board
understand they're
members
only
that,
allowing like 15 in, right?
yeah, but hopefully you can,
I would recommend making a phone call to Dr. Poole in advance
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Okay,
There might be some school board members that understand your point of view,
Okay.
so,
all right.
yeah, definitely talk to them.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay.
your granddaughter is very nice facility.
Thank you. You were at it?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say you were at it?
Yeah, I was
Oh.
at your opening. It was very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
all.
you.
Thanks, Shauna.
Thank you.
That's all we have signed up for citizens' time. I'll close citizens' time and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the payment of invoices. Entertain a motion to pay the invoices.
I make that motion.
Have a motion by Mr. McRoberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Horny. Is there any questions or any invoice that any board member wants to pull out and discuss? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved. The next item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from our previous meeting from July the 27th, 2021. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second by Mr. Terry?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item on our agenda is old business, and the first item, much to Mr. Smith's joy, is the Progress Park Hunting Lottery. Mr. Blair?
Well, you took the words out of my mouth. I figured before you would finish, there would be a motion from Mr. Smith over there already, but basically, Kevin Williams has been working with, pardon me for calling them DGIF, DWR on setting this up. Obviously, we won't have it in time to go into any of their brochures and out there, but we can certainly get it publicized, and we think there will be plenty of interest once we get it out on our social media sites. But basically, you see the quota hunt, the rules and regulations that have been proposed by our staff with a lot of input from DWR. One of them that is in there, particular to note, is that it would be done through a lottery system. We would be working with DWR and drawing those out. And if Mr. Kegley left here, but if Mr. Kegley's name was drawn out, Mr. Kegley would be allowed to bring one person with him, and that's for safety purposes as well. That way you're not up in a tree stand without having somebody else out there. So 2 people would be allowed to hunt on a site. It is crossbows only. They are promoting the right to earn a buck with number 10, and DWR would be the ones responsible for enforcing that you would need to take a doe before taking the buck in the process. That's up for you all's recommendation, whether you all want to leave that in there or not.
So, Mr. Mayor, it's actually archery only, and crossbows are allowed.
I'm
correct?
sorry, thank you, I said crossbows, let's read that. Archery only and crossbows are allowed, thank you.
So is it just for the month of October, or is it going to run the entire season?
They talked about it being for the entire season. I mean, it could be open for the hunting season as well, for the rifle season and all that. And I think that would give more time for the hunters to each have a week out there.
Oh, that'd be good.
And if you all would like that, we'll include that in there for the seasons, and we'll confirm with them. That runs through October through
1st of January.
the 1st of January. I think December 31st would be a good cutoff
Yep.
period on that.
Now I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, to include the December 31st language.
You made that so quick, I didn't have time to write it down. So I have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Cook. Is there any questions or discussion?
Let me bring up one item, and I've gone back and forth on it. Area number 6 is the only area that has cattle in it, and we certainly shouldn't have any issue with someone mistaking the deer for the cattle out through there. Area 6 is not the easiest to get to. You've got to probably walk a quarter of a mile down the rail corridor or another way to get in there. Staff has gone back and forth. I'm fine if you take 6 out. The leasee out there does not mind if we leave 6 in, but definitely likes 1 through 5 because it's not anywhere where the cattle are. You don't have to worry about gates being opened or anything else in the process. If we take 6 out, that's just 2 less hunters for 10, 12 weeks out there that's not hunting.
Well, can we leave 6 in and see how it goes? I mean, we can always take it out.
We can take it out if there's any issues. Yes, sir.
I mean,
And we can actually have them come in from behind Amcor right there.
Yep, that's the
Then
way
go
we were
up.
going to recommend, was park at the end of the
Go
road
up that spur.
there, walk the spur up. That's, I went with Mr. Williams out there the other day, and that's the way we went into it, and think that's the best avenue to get there.
well, I mean, I think the purpose is to thin the herd, literally and figuratively. And, you know,
More decisive.
so tractor and trailers will quit splattering on their way to you know, the factory, so
Okay.
I say leave it in there and we can reevaluate it. Does anybody else have anything?
I have a question.
Yes.
Jamie said it before that we're not allowed to hunt or to apply for the thing. Is that all with county employees?
No, I think,
No.
that's what I was thinking, but after talking to Kevin, a couple Fridays back, where the Department of Game and Land and Fisheries is gonna do it, which I know that's not what they're called now, but, anybody's
Anybody's
eligible to
eligible.
apply.
Okay. Because I was thinking, I knew that we was gonna have some employees who would
Yes.
want to, so.
Running it through them, it makes it cleaner, if you will, so, yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
And they're the experts at it. They do it for the
Right.
arsenal as well, so.
Well, if I get it and I'm out there with a bow and arrow, you might wanna give everybody a heads up.
If he's hunting in one, I don't wanna be even in five.
1 and 3.
Yeah, there you go. Does anybody else have any questions?
Could
Hearing
I
that,
say a couple more things, Frank?
what's that, Mr. Cox?
Could I say a couple more things I forgot to say?
Let us get this done and I'll bring you up.
All right.
Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. Mr. Cox, it's been so long since we seen you. Come on back up.
What I meant to say, I haven't talked to anybody on Pope Road that's not happy. They tickle with that road, and I know one person's gonna be really happy is our bus driver, school bus driver. She will really be happy about that. Appreciate every one of you guys and girls.
You're welcome, Mr.
I'll
Cox.
get out here and leave y'all alone. So, thanks a lot.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Cox.
you.
All right. Anything else under old business, Mr. Bear?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
It's so rare that we get complimented, I had to let them talk again. Moving on to new business, the first item we have is the Town of Rural Retreat vehicle request. Mr. Bear, do you want to proffer that?
If there's any questions, I think the memo self-explains that Rural Retreat has already voted to pay us for the amount that was paid for do the repair. Staff recommends going ahead and approving the transfer of the vehicle.
Entertain a motion to approve the request from the Town of Rural Retreat.
So moved.
Have a motion by, who was that, Mr. Horny?
Terry.
Mr. Terry.
I'll second that.
Have a second by Mr. Horny. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item on the agenda is the DCJS Victim Witness Grant.
Please approve Mr. Street's grant.
Entertain a motion to approve the grant.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Cook.
As an ongoing grant, I'll be glad to answer any questions you all have, but it's primarily covering salaries and some office expenses for that.
Does anybody have any questions? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye. I'll abstain.
I'll abstain.
Aye.
So approved. Next item is the VTC Marketing Leverage Program Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is one of the grants that Ms. Sweeney applied for in cooperation with the Near River Trail State Park and the town of Wythe to reprint the trail brochures. It's one of the more popular paper items that we do. The grant has been awarded in the amount of $10,000. I'm not real sure that we're supposed to be talking about it yet, but congratulate her on a job well done and getting that funded. And I would just ask that you accept and appropriate the grant.
Thank you, Mr. Hankins. Entertain a motion to accept the grant.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Horny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a
Mr. Chairman,
second.
will you add to that motion to amend and appropriate that amount also
Yeah.
of $10,000?
Mr. Horny, is that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Lawson?
Second.
All right. Any questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item on the agenda is amend an appropriation request from Mr. Blair in the amount of $2,153 for part-time employment of the law clerk librarian for the circuit court. Mr. Blair, do you want to?
Yeah, for several years, we had budgeted some money that had not previously been used. This last year, we had about $3,000 of unspent funds. The circuit court judge and I were meeting on some other issues, and he asked about at least getting some money for about $2,000 of part-time assistance with a law clerk librarian. I told him I would bring it before the board, and I would request you all amend and appropriate the $2,153.
Entertain a motion to amend and appropriate 2153.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item is the Progress Park land lease. Mr. Baird?
Yeah, as you are aware, G&G Livestock has been leasing Progress Park since the beginning of this year. This is a lease amendment. Basically, it removes 37 acres that we're anticipating to be removing for lot number 1 for purchase by STS. And it adds 37 acres to it, which was what was given back to us by Branch Botanicals. That was not included in the original lease. So basically, no reason to change rent prices. It's 37 acres. There is an additional 15 acres roughly between where Branch Botanicals owned down to lot 24, which is basically underneath the power line. And it's also the new right-of-way for the connector road that'll be coming in there. I do not see a need to charge for that 15 acres to turn back around in 6 months and be selling VDOT the right-of-way and do that. So it does include that at no additional cost because we will be conveying that to VDOT in the near future. So I would request approval of amendment number 1 for the land lease.
Entertain a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item is the fire apparatus and command trailer. I guess we're going to do the financing first.
Let's do the purchase recommendation first, Mr. Chairman. Let's reverse that order. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Hankins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Per your direction and the direction of the Fire and Rescue Committee, we have put out a procurement request soliciting proposals for 3 fire apparatus. As you recall, Chief Whitlow from Fiscal was here asking for a new tanker. We've been working with Chief Price, who must have known that we were talking about fire trucks since he just got here, on his needs. He needs a new pumper tanker and a new brush truck because their brush truck is on its last legs, did not pass its pump test. So we went out looking for those pieces of equipment. We got a lot more bids back than, or a lot more proposals back than I expected. I have a fairly large box sitting in my office. It's about 2.5 feet tall, full of binders and proposals. We had several that looked pretty good, and if we had more time, if we didn't have pressing needs for trucks, they might have been good options. But the lowest proposal that can meet our needs in terms of the urgent need for getting equipment in here, so by the end of November, getting that equipment in. Looking at the 2 proposals that were able to do that, the lowest price is $750,000. The next price was $889,531. So fairly large difference between those 2. The most substantial difference was in the price of the brush truck. But the proposal that Mr. McCabe, who's here tonight, and I have looked at and that we recommend is 2 nearly identical 2,500-gallon Old South pumper tankers for Speedle and Ivanhoe. and a new 450-gallon Dodge brush truck for Ivanhoe included in that $750,000 purchase price. That's the fire apparatus. I need to talk about the incident command trailer separately. So,
I'd request a motion, Mr. Chairman, to authorize staff to proceed with the purchase through the name of the company he just mentioned.
Brindley Mountain
Brindle
Fire Apparatus.
Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Any questions or discussion?
Just, do these meet their, not really their specs, but what you need, gets the job done, that's all I want to. All right.
So,
And they fit in the station. I asked that
And they
question.
fit in the station.
so the 750, that's for all three trucks?
All three.
Yes, sir.
Let's hurry up
You-
and vote on this. It's only been going on for 2 years.
Argue over what color.
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith.
No, they answered my question, Mr. Chairman.
Does anybody else have any questions? Here none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. So approved. All right, now let's go back to the financing.
No, let's
Hey.
finish command
Oh,
trailer.
I'm sorry.
This is where we've had the change since last week. We also received 3 proposals for an incident command trailer. It's a 24-foot incident command trailer that can be used on any site in any weather if we need to have a mobile command post. So whether that's for a large festival, a large event, search and rescue, major accident scene, all of those sorts of things could be towed to the site. The low price on that, the bids or the proposals range from $75,700, which includes delivery, up to $169,000 for very similar equipment. The initial staff recommendation was that the board accept the proposal from Great Dane for $75,700, anticipating that half of that cost would be paid by the sheriff's office from the police activities fund, the remaining $37,850 from the financing that had been advertised. However, in talking with Sheriff Foster, and I think I'm the first one to get to refer to you as Sheriff Foster in a public meeting, so I win. In talking with him, there is some concern from the Sheriff's Office because they're going to have some fleet needs and some vehicle needs coming up this year, so there's some concern about spending that money from the Police Activities Fund. So that leaves us in the position where either we would not purchase the vehicle at all, reject all bids, and not spend that money and not have an incident command trailer. The county could fund the remainder out of fund balance, which is certainly an option. Or if there was another funding mechanism, I guess we could look at borrowing more if we needed to, but we've already advertised for the 800, so I think we're close to topping out there. So looking for some guidance on the board on what direction you might want us to choose, or if you want to refer this to a later meeting.
Mr. Bear, how much money do we have in the CARES Act money?
We have got a balance, the original CARES Act,
The
that was
original.
left over. We have a balance somewhere in the $30,000 range in the CARES Act that was left over.
And we can use this trailer to store PPE?
Yes, sir.
There we go. Problem solved.
Well, y'all pay me the big bucks.
That's right.
So, what else will be stored in it? Stuff for the sheriff's office, stuff for, I mean,
There won't be a lot stored in it because with an incident command trailer, you need that space to be able to sit in, to do meetings, to do meals, to display your maps. And there will be restroom facilities in there as well. So it's not going to be a lot stored, but you can store PPE or haul it out for distribution if
I
need be.
mean, I assume that it would have pretty much what everyone would need in it, so that when.
I'm just trying to figure out a way to get it to qualify.
Oh, no, I know. No, I know that. I get that point.
Okay.
I'm just saying, no, I'm just trying to understand more about what a command trailer actually is. No, I understand what you're doing. And so that I can justify, in my mind, who should pay for some of it and who shouldn't.
Well, part of the reason why staff brought this up is that after the incidents at Charlottesville a few years ago, the state mandated that localities should have an incident command trailer of some sort, or at least some sort of incident command vehicle, so that there's a central meeting point for officers. This is also the sort of thing that if you're set up at a large event or a festival, for incident command, lost kids can be dropped off there, lost and found, any number of things that, folks might come to police for. Whether they're reporting an incident or a crime, they would have somewhere visible that they could see and go to for incident command.
And it was, a couple months ago, I left the board meeting and went to Retreat Lake when that young man tragically lost his life out there. And not to pat Jimmy on the back while he's in attendance, but he was there, and he was there for after I left. And that a vehicle would have come in handy at that situation. I think we have a person in that position that is going to respond to emergencies and be on call, and he needs the equipment to do the job. It's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that it's needed, and we have talked about it. I'm not being blindsided. I didn't mean to make it sound like that, because we have discussed it. But just discussing it further tonight just raised some questions for me, and that's why I was wondering. But how much do we have in the PAF now? Is that a really large amount?
As of June 30th, the police activity fund had $936,000.
And we were looking at, what was that amount, like 30?
It was with what the original, and you said
37,850.
blindsided. Matt literally hit me with this afternoon just before we came into the meeting. Our understanding and what we looked at all the way through had been this 50-50 split, and that's why we requested the $800,000. But it was $37,500, but they're also looking at, Sheriff Foster, $172,000 on the Bearcat.
If I can approach you, Mr. Chairman, I can address, I met with Matt.
I guess all out, Sheriff.
With the obligations that I have right now, being new in this position, I met with Matt today and I talked to him about it. I know we're gonna have budgetary needs as far as vehicles will have to be bought, things like that, and we'll have to outsource some of that stuff. It's getting old. But from what I could tell, I could make a commitment of up to about 15,000 and feel pretty safe on that if you would need that.
And Sheriff Foster and I had a really good conversation today, and he's got a legitimate point, because those fleet vehicles that he needs are going to be rolling most of the time. The incident command trailer, because of its nature, is going to be parked most of the
Right.
time. So
I understand.
if I were in his shoes, I would want to take care of the rolling stock first.
The board was very gracious last year in supplying me with 3 vehicles, and I wanted to sort of try to have some reserves as to not have to ask you for that again.
Oh, yeah, and I definitely understand what's needed, and I wasn't trying to nitpick
No,
where the
ma'am,
money
just
comes.
wanted to
I just want to make
explain
sure
that
we,
and did
because,
clarify that Mr. Hankins, Mr. Bird worked with me really well
Yeah.
on it, and I believe I could safely make a $15,000 commitment to the endeavor if you needed that.
My recommendation would be, is if y'all want to proceed, we'll see what we've got exactly in the CARES fund to go towards it, and if there's any balance left.
because we can always use
we
that for
can-
other
we
stuff
can
too.
Go back
Yeah.
to it on the PAF fund.
So, do we need,
If we approve this and the trailer shows up out here, are we gonna be asked to buy a truck to pull it, or do we have something that's gonna pull it? Or is that another expense coming down the road?
That's a legitimate question. That did come up after the Budget Committee last week, that there may be a need for an additional vehicle. You authorized up to $1 million to be spent this year on the fire apparatus equipment, so there are some potential savings that you could apply toward a vehicle to pull it if there's a need. And Mr. McCabe inconveniently had some mechanical issues with his vehicle last week that may make that an upcoming issue regardless.
And one of the options about pulling it somewhere, and I am going merely on an assumption here, but we just bought 4 brand-new vehicles for fire department. So if an incident command trailer needs to be pulled somewhere, currently what happens is if our service is out of area, the town of Wytheville would always use their truck to pull, the hazmat materials anywhere. So we've got enough pickups that if we need to haul it somewhere, we can use those to do it. But he is going to need he's going to need a vehicle at some time.
So turnkey operation, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
we're hit this month and the next month for vehicle, I just don't know about all of it up front.
Well, Mr. McCabe, how old's your truck?
2005.
Yeah.
And the issue that Mr. Anthony brought up was, this past week I was on the way to Jackson Memorial, checking on some computers, and my odometer started going backwards.
Well, that's good for resale. Mr. McRoberts done that years ago.
I successfully got to the school and my odometer completely reset to 0 and I went 16 miles. I left there, came back to town, and it displayed error, and it's stuck on error. So, he's old. Far from taking it into the shop and let them diagnose it. I personally think it's going to be a computer issue, and it's going to be the orders of the vehicle.
That wouldn't take much.
Fortunately, like you said, we've got those leftover funds that we could come back to you all and say, let's go ahead and look at purchasing another vehicle.
So do we need to take any action tonight, or you want to?
If you all want to proceed with the command trailer, would request you all take action to approve the purchase of the command trailer from Great Dane for $75,700.
Entertain a motion to authorize the purchase of the command trailer.
So moved. I'll second it.
I have a motion by Mr. Terry, a second by Mr. Horny. Is there any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved. Limp that truck along, Mr. McKay. If you get another 15 years out of it, we'll look at getting you.
We'll give you $1 raise.
I'm just afraid that golf cart might be in my future.
Anything else with that? We got to do the finances.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hankins?
That's me. I've got,
Mr.
yeah,
Blair.
we put out requests for financing. Once again, I'll say, the bids came in, and I had another project going on, and I appreciate Mr. Hankins going through all the bids and putting together the recommendation for us. But to fund all the things that we just talked about, we put out directly to the banks for loans. And staff would recommend that you all authorize us to proceed with developing bond documents with an amount of $800,000 over 7 years at an interest rate of 1.44%.
Entertain a motion to authorize staff to proceed with the bond documents with the bond counsel for the BB&T Truist proposal.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Is there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. Anything else with that, Mr. Barrett?
No, sir. Thank y'all very much.
All right, next item is board reports. Have the Budget Committee, Mr. Smith.
The Budget Committee met on August 3rd, 2021, and makes the following recommendations. To approve the following budget amendments and appropriations, which is listed for a total of $40,769.32.
Coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussions? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved.
To transfer $1 million from the general fund to the school construction fund in preparation for the next round of school constructions.
Coming from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any question or discussion?
I got a couple
points, Mr. Chairman, if I may, please, sir. We're gonna move $100 or $1 million, if I can talk, for school construction, but the school system doesn't seem to be too concerned about taking care of kids and citizens' needs. That's a hard pill for me to swallow. So that's just to justify my vote. That's all I have to say about that.
Mr. Bear, this is just moving a line item. It's still within our control.
Yes, this
correct?
is just putting it back, as we talked about during the budget session, with the money that they didn't spend. This just, we move it, we talked about police activity fund a minute ago, that's several. We have a school construction fund set up. This just puts $1 million into that school construction fund. Still under your all's control. It can be used for A&E fees or construction fees in the future as it comes available.
Anybody else have any questions or discussion? Mr. McRoberts?
I thought the school board was gonna come up with some money to help with Scott.
They do. They have, it's roughly over $5 million in ESSER funds to assist with the construction of that school. So yes, they do have that, and what we are doing is just setting back the unused, part of the unused funds from last year to go towards the A&E fees for the design of that.
But we're not spending any of it yet. We're
Not
just
spending
putting
any
a
of it
line
now,
item.
just setting it aside for future purposes.
Any other questions or discussion?
Just to confirm, we're not spending it, we're just putting it
No.
in the savings account, correct?
We're not giving it to the school board, we're not appropriating it to the school board, we are just setting it into a separate fund for our accounting
So
purposes.
hopefully we can build a new Scott Memorial for the students that need it.
Yeah, right. Do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 Anything else from the Budget Committee, Mr.
That's
Smith?
all, Mr. Chairman.
That's all our committee reports. We'll go to Board of Supervisors. Before we go to Board of Supervisors time, and Mr. Hankins beat me to it. Sheriff Foster, your first meeting. Come on up.
I like how you reach for his gun.
I saw that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome, and I'll open the floor up for anybody who wants to say anything, or if you want to say anything, but I don't think it'd be right without recognizing you. Thank you, Mr. Hankins, for reminding me. So,
Yes, sir. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Go ahead, Mr. Sheriff.
I'm just gonna say, in the capacity of chief deputy, I've come up to I think I missed 1 or 2 meetings in the last year. I try to keep up to date with what's going on. I did want to extend our thank you. You've done a lot to help the office, and we'll continue to do a good job. Just want to thank each and every one of you. You've helped us a whole lot.
Thank you for doing everything you do.
And really
Thank you.
enjoyed, sent some memorandums out to the board and to Stephen and everybody, and how we enjoyed the picnic, and you all recognize the employees. I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you again for that. That was very nice.
Thank you.
If
I
you need
believe
anything,
it's a
let me
help.
know. And, we have those speed data calculators that we can put on the polls, like Mr. McRoberts is requesting, Mr. Smith's requesting, so we can get you speed analysis if you get complaints on that type of stuff. And I also want to reach
People
out to.
complain about me, I don't believe it.
And if you would, Mr. Byrd, can we let Mr. Fowler know as well on the address of the old bank road out near Mr. Hobach's? That's been repaired, and I went and talked to them. They were very happy down in Mr. Horner's district.
Okay.
So, just send him a thank you for that as well. If y'all need anything, just feel free to call anytime.
Oh, well, that's right.
I would ask before he sits down that we take care of official business with him. Y'all have a memo that's in front of you all. Previous meeting, you all agreed to amend and appropriate funds for them to buy a armored vehicle out of their police activity fund. You got a memo from me, a memo from Sheriff Foster, and I will admit my staff has corrected me a couple times this week when I referred to you as chief deputy. I was like, I'll get to that eventually. But basically, Lenco has provided a letter into Major Klein indicating that they are a sole source manufacturer for Lenco Bearcat or equivalent. They had a reference in there of several places, one of which was Fairfax, Virginia. We talked to Fairfax, Virginia Procurement Office, which is a big office, and they confirmed that they have used this for sole source in the past. Code requires us to, when we're doing sole source for the public body, to state so and do so. So I would request that you all approve the purchase of this vehicle through sole source, Lenco Armored Vehicles.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Cook. Any questions or discussion?
If we need it, can he pull the trailer with it?
That's what I was getting ready to say. There's your trailer puller right there.
It'll pull it.
Might not be able to stop real fast.
You need,
Do a roll call vote, Mr. Smith.
I'll abstain.
I'll abstain.
Aye.
So approved. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Barrett?
Nothing from Mr. Sheriff Foster. I do have one additional item on the agenda, page 4. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Page 4 of the agenda, we had the public hearing on amending and appropriating the budget. I would welcome your all's input. We can adopt this tonight. We can adopt it next meeting. I do recommend that we do get the $5.571,531 into our budget. As you can see, these are set up as generic utilities, public safety, healthy, ARPA, environmental, or economic impact. That is only to get them into the budget, and I certainly, you all got the ability to move along there. We'll certainly be deciding projects. Mr. Kegley has a good point. I do think there are some areas that we may want to look for some public input on certain items on in the process. We certainly know the broadband is our top priority, and I do recommend leaving $2 million in the broadband. The utilities is labeled as utilities. There's water and wastewater projects, but you all will need to be deciding how those go. But I would request that we at least consider this to get this into the budget.
And we talked about this like on the broadband. If we get a grant, we can move it around. But and I hate Mr. Kegley left. Some of the issues that he talked about are located firmly within the town limits of Retreat. I mean, Wytheville got Retreat on the brain. And the town of Wytheville got how much ARPA money?
You put me on the spot, but I believe it was more than we got. It's
Oh,
7
million?
Yeah.
And we got 5, so I hope he takes those same concerns to the town council. But anyway, I'll entertain a motion to, I guess, do you want to amend and appropriate to those line items?
Yes, sir.
The ARPA initial budget allocations?
Joe, man.
Have a motion by Mr. McRoberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. Do we have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Anything else, Mr. Barrett?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, that's all.
And I apologize for skipping over that.
Oh, not a problem.
Board of Supervisors time, Mr. Smith.
Just 3 items, Mr. Chairman. One is to follow up on Jones Road. I know we had talked about it, trying to get it on the 6-year plan. And just following up on it, the residents on South Crest reached out to me, Mr. Barrett. You know, when we met with them, they were looking for signage for that road. They still haven't received the sign, or the sign hasn't been replaced.
Okay.
On that. And then the last thing I got, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Barrett, if you could thank Mr. Fowler and his staff for paving East Lee Highway on the other side through Carter's Park and Crimson Lane. The residents down there are very pleased with that and thankful for their support. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Cook?
I just need to follow up on the trash collection facilities. Where are we on that?
I'll get in touch. Buildings and Grounds had discussed that, and we'll talk about that. They have reviewed it. It's very difficult to make changes that meet everything, and I'll go through what Buildings and Ground met with about, and we can see what we can do from there. And since you brought that up, Mr. McRoberts brought it to my attention. Our trash and recycling people have been trying to, I think, reposition some of the boxes within some of the centers. And it is not working very well. Mr. Bowers has advised them to go back to the original layout. It was creating backups into the centers and everything else. So if you all gotten any complaints about it, it should be reverting back to the previous lineup, or at least working with him to confirm if it's something that can move that doesn't create backlogs.
I got one about Apple House.
I've heard that.
I just don't think the attitude of some of the people out there has changed yet either.
Okay. Same location?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Cook?
No.
Mrs. Lawson?
I don't have anything at this time.
Mr. McRoberts?
Oh, I had a couple of meetings with VDOT, over Piney Mountain Road and Blair Road, and they seemed to talk like they're gonna work them out. Also, we'd like to have a little bit of dust control.
I spoke to Mr. Fowler this afternoon, just in preparation of the meeting, just to check on the status. He indicated they were getting calls about dust control. They're trying to get out in all the areas where dust control is called for, and they obviously need moisture to go with dust control. So
Yeah.
they're hoping to get a little bit of rain to go with it, but they said if people are calling into the number, they are going out and trying to make certain they're hitting those areas.
We got a little bit of dust out there, man. Very little.
Anything else?
That's all I had.
Mr. Horny?
I had a few things, but I've already talked to Mr. Blair and gotten my answers to, so we're good, I believe.
Mr. Terry?
I have nothing this time, Mr. Chairman.
I hate that Mr. Fowler and his staff aren't here tonight, because I was gonna brag on them too, and I know VDOT's not used to that, but they, I met with Mr. Fowler and Miss Heath, and I can't remember the other gentleman, Mr. Bear, about Lake Mount Airy Road. They were really receptive. That might be something we could address. The only negative that I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna start bringing it up twice a month, is if we can get that section of the road out by the Helders Farm. Before I die, I would like to see a smooth service there, because I'm 44 and it's never been smooth. And, I mean, you've got basically 3 accesses to Retreat Lake, from Cedar Springs, those 2, and then the people from Smith County come that way, and it'll beat you to death. I can't imagine what it's like pulling a boat.
I'll check with Mr. Fowler and see if he went out there. When I met with him at Royal Retreat before we went to Lake Mount Airy Road, I said, if you get a chance, go out there and look at that portion. I said, because as of Sunday a week ago, I know that it still had not been touched.
One of these days, I'm going to circuit court and I'm pulling the meeting minutes to see what Don Helder said to VDOT when he was on the Board of Supervisors to make them not like him. But that's all I've got. And I'll reiterate what Sheriff Foster said. I've got a lot of compliments from employees about the picnic. The only question I had was Mr. Catron, our IT coordinators, won the award over at Galax Smoke on the Mountain for his chicken wings, but we didn't have him cook. So be my request that we look at that avenue next year. So. All right, next item on the agenda is a closed meeting under section 2.2-3711A5 of the Code of Virginia for discussion of prospective industry projects Palm and Project Gold Star. Entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now in closed session.
Jared,
Mr. Terry, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now back in open session. Mr. McRoberts, if you'll read the certification.
Resolution certification to close meeting. Whereas Wythe County Board of Supervisors has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with provision of Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.23712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Wythe County Board of Supervisors, such a meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening a closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Wythe County Board of Supervisors. I make a motion we accept.
Have a motion by Mr. McRoberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Ms. Lawson. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved. Anything else, Mr. Barry? Ms. Collins, do you have anything? Hearing none, we'll be adjourned.